All right, Duke chapter 18. We've got four more chapters and then we're done. We'll finish up this week. Gum and Gumption, August 31st, 1944. Hobie hurried to the paper shack right after school. He didn't have to wait long before a big truck pulled up. Shortly after that, the first of the newspaper carriers arrived, getting their allotted papers from the driver and taking them over to the shack to fold them. When Max showed up, Pepper ran straight over to Hobie, licking his hands. What are you doing here? Max set his bike on the ground. Did you get a route? Nope. Hobie rubbed the top of Pepper's head. Then what are you doing? Max walked over to the truck and grabbed a bundle of papers. Hobie grabbed a bundle too, shifting it to his shoulder. It was heavy. Where do these go? Max fumbled with the load he'd grabbed. I don't need your help, he said. This is heavy, Hobie said. I'd like to put it down. Max stared at Hobie. Hobie stared back. Okay, over there. Max pointed to the spot next to the shed. Only the older guys worked inside, he explained. Unless it's raining. Hobie put the papers where Max showed him and grabbed another load. After several trips, Max said, That's all I get. He plunked to the ground, cut the twine around the bundle of papers with his pocket knife, and began folding. Pepper curled up behind him like a furry backrest. That looks kind of tricky. Hobie sat down too. Want to show me how? What are you doing? Max asked. Hobie picked up the newspaper and started to fold it. I figured I'd help my friend with his paper route. He tried to make the same folds Max was making, so he could get done in time to listen to Hop Harrigan with me. He looked over at Max. Max looked right back. Then he grabbed the newspaper from Hobie. It's going to fall apart if you fold it like that. Here. He showed Hobie what to do. It took several tries, but Hobie got the hang of it. When all the papers were folded, Hobie ran over to his bike and grabbed the canvas shopping bag he'd brought. I figured he could each carry half. Max pulled two pieces of blackjack gum from his pocket. He handed one to Hobie and put the other in his mouth. Then he tugged his carrier bag over his shoulder. How's your throwing arm? He said. Pretty good, after playing baseball most of the summer. Hobie unwrapped the piece of gum and popped it into his mouth. Working on the boat had sprouted him some new muscles, too. Lead the way. He hopped on his bike. Pepper danced all around when she saw that Max was getting on his bike. Crazy dog, Max said. Duke's like that too. Hobie followed Max down the sidewalk. When they got to the first street on Max's route, Max pointed out which houses needed papers. Hobie tossed them on one side of the street and Max on the other. As they rode, Hobie noticed how many of the houses had blue star flags in the window, like the one they had at home. He noticed some gold stars too. He hoped no one he ever knew had to change their blue star to gold. About the fifth house, Hobie missed the porch. He slowed his bike to get off and grab the paper. Pepper, Max called. Paper? He pointed toward Hobie. Like a black and white blur, Pepper flashed past Hobie, picked up the wayward paper, and ran it to the porch. Hobie shook his head. Maybe you don't need my help after all, with Pepper around. Sometimes I miss on purpose, Max said, just to keep her on her toes. They finished that block and turned up the next. Mitch Mitchell Street, and there was Mitch Mitchell's house. Hobie glanced over at Max. You deliver here? Max reached into his bag. His mom's a good tipper. Hobie felt every muscle in his body tense up, but the house looked empty. The shades were drawn on the front windows. No car in the driveway. Nobody home. Hey, look! Hobie pointed to a pair of sneakers on the front porch. Mitch Mitchell sized sneakers. So? Max grabbed another paper out of the bag and got ready to throw. Hobie braked to a halt. He held out his hand. Give me your gum. What? Max made a face. Disgusting. Hobie spit out a wad of gum into his hand. Yeah, isn't it? Max laughed. I get it. He spit out his gum and he tossed it to Hobie. Hobie jumped off his bike and tiptoed up to the Mitchell's front steps. With a quick glance over his shoulder, he picked up one of the sneakers. He pushed a piece of gum into the very tip of the toe. He did the same with the other sneaker and Max's gum. Wiping his hands on his dungarees, he bounded down the steps. Who knows what evil lurks in the hearts of men? Max said, as the words just like a radio announcer. The shadow knows, Hobie answered, jumping back on his bike. And us. They rode away, gumless and hysterical. Pepper rescued a couple more papers while they finished the route. When the last paper was tossed, the boys turned and headed for Hobie's house. Pepper hot on their tails. The boys dropped their bikes on the front lawn and tore up the stairs. Hobie cranked on the radio. The announcer's voice filled the kitchen with Hop Harrigan, ace of the airways. We made it! Max slid into the chairs. Hobie turned up the volume and then sat down too. After sniffing around for crumbs without success, Pepper curled up under the table. June and Kitty crawled under the table too. You get to listen with your friend? She said, so we're going to listen with ours. Hobie chuckled about what he and Max had done. Scooter would be so proud. Want a piece of gum? He asked. Max sputtered, I want some. June poked her head out from under the table. That got the boys laughing so hard they missed Hop Harrigan's opening lines. All right, guys, that's the end of chapter 18. 19 in just